Hello, this is Brett, and here we are again. I've got Sandy on a call, and Sandy, you're somewhere
Right.
different.
Yes, I'm doing the whole what's my bookshelf? So the stars all do. They curate their bookshelf. No. This is just my sister's bookshelf.
That's excellent. Yeah, my bookshelf, kind of stopped buying technology books a while
Uh,
back. So now it looks like a history lesson. Yeah, I see SharePoint 2010 up there, and even some SharePoint 2007 actually.
uh, well, this bookshelf is mostly, I think, mysteries and sailing.
So not technology. Yeah, I
No.
guess that. Yeah, it sounds more interesting, to be honest.
And it doesn't go out
Fantastic.
of date.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Some sailors are going to be killing you now as the the technology moves on in sailing as well.
Well, yes, but I think the sailing books are like about Horatio Hornblower and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So here we are in August already,
Yeah,
and
wow.
yeah, I don't know what happened to July, but it came and went.
I know.
And so we're talking about a new product, and we've got a
Hmm.
release of Lightning Forms again.
Hmm.
So yeah, I guess it's 4 months ago since we did the last release of Lightning Forms, which actually saw a lot of changes.
Hmm.
But perhaps, for anybody that didn't listen or isn't aware of what Lightning Forms is, I mean, you might be able to guess a little bit by the name. But we'll talk about what Lightning Forms is briefly, and we can talk about some of the other features that we added to Lightning Forms as well in the last release, and then what you can expect this month as well, which I think could be really, really useful.
Yep. Good.
So, yeah, do you want to describe Lightning Forms or shall I?
Yes, sure, I can do that. Yeah, so Lightning Forms is a SharePoint list form customization tool. So that lets you take your SharePoint lists that you already have data in them, or if you don't already have data in them anyway, and you can customize that list form. So by default in SharePoint, as people probably know, just speaking about SharePoint Online, since that's kind of the most common thing at this point, or modern SharePoint. If you want to add a new item to a form, you get a little slide out panel on the right, and that lists every single field that's in that SharePoint list, just in a row, or in a column, I should say. And that's what you get. So what Lightning Forms lets you do is customize that. So you could have a wider form if you want. You could rearrange the fields so that they appear in a different order. You can add tabs. So you could have, one tab has a certain set of the fields, another tab has another set. You can conditionally display or format those fields. So, maybe based on what you enter in one field, you do or don't want other fields to display, which you can do a little bit of that now in SharePoint out of the box that Microsoft has added, but it's pretty basic, really. And you can't do, you can't do all of the things that you can do with Lightning Forms with, even things like colors and adding rich text and sublists, which a lot of people know as, I think, repeating entries from InfoPath. So yeah, that's it in
Awesome.
a nutshell.
Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, it saves people a lot of time when they're developing the forms, and of course, a lot of people are currently moving across from InfoPath and so on to look at other technologies to be able to provide those business forms. So Lightning Forms is an example of that. You can go through and literally redesign those forms so that yeah, you can carry on using those business forms as Microsoft puts the brakes on InfoPath. So
Right. And, some people were switching from InfoPath to Power Apps, which you can also do. You can customize SharePoint list forms with Power Apps. But we have one big customer in particular who was doing that and found out about Lightning Forms and have switched completely over to using Lightning Forms because it's just so much easier. I mean, I love Power Apps, but seriously, when you can just drag and drop things around and not have to do any coding at all to get what you want in Lightning Forms, then that's kind of a no-brainer. It was
yeah,
for
and I
that
think
customer.
absolutely. I think that the contextual design of Lightning Forms
Mhm.
actually helps there as well. So you're not actually you're going away from this SharePoint form itself into a separate design application and then publishing it and going, oh, that's not what I intended. So yeah, I tend to use an old term. It's taking me back to my college days, but Wysiwyg. It's kind of it's that. So you can literally go through and yeah, design the form exactly how you want and save it, and it's good to go. Yeah, it's really useful from that point of view. So yeah, it's fantastic. There's a lot of things that are in InfoPath that people liked to do back then with things like repeating tables and so on. So you can do all of that with multiple lists. So you can have really sort of master list and your detail list embedded on the master list form. And one of the examples that we often do as a company is we have an expense report that you would create. And of course, you want to get that signed off or approved by your manager and so on. That report may be produced, after a business trip or once a month or something like that. But of course, there's going to be itemizations on there. You're going to have train tickets and food and flights and that sort of thing to make a claim for. So these expense items actually go into a different list that's embedded on that main form. And yeah, it could be presenting the whole lot. So yeah, that's really what Lightning Forms does. It's a very rapid development tool for building these business forms inside of SharePoint Online. And we also offer the same thing for the classic experience as well. So if you are using SharePoint 2016 or SharePoint 2019 with classic lists, you can actually use Lightning Forms Classic, and also in SharePoint 2019 you can use the modern as well. So that's really useful. And of course, in those environments, you don't actually have Power Apps. So
exactly.
yeah, it's really useful for on-prem stuff. But yeah, as you pointed out, even SharePoint Online customers, there tends to be a lot of them actually have a preference of using Lightning Forms over Power Apps, and that's each their own. So yeah, so we released 4 months ago now. It doesn't seem that long ago, but we released a lot of the styling of the Lightning Forms as well. So yeah, do you want to talk us through that?
Sure. Yeah, so that was a really popular release, I think, the styling. So that lets you add conditional or non-conditional formatting to any part of your form. So that could include the whole form. It could include sections where you want to add a background color border. That had been a request for a long time, or something like, if you enter an amount over a certain amount, you want the field to turn red, or different things like that, or have we already have the tabs where you can have a tab display or not, but you can even have the whole tab turn color or something if there's some issue with some other part of the form. So, and you set up these rules basically as what they are, and you can add your own CSS as well. So it's all done via CSS, but I've worked with some customers already who have added their own to do things that aren't in the Lightning Forms UI, but it's almost unlimited, the kind of styling that you can really do.
Yeah, absolutely. And when people mention styling of forms, you immediately build up this horrific memory of all those Access databases that you had lying around your organization, where people had like pink backgrounds to their forms with green cell backgrounds and things like that. And one of the nice things about Lightning Forms is it defaults to sticking to your current theme. So yeah, so if you've got the blue theme or the orange theme or whatever applied to your site, or the teal and so on, all of the accent colors that you can go through and add will default to those theme colors. So you actually end up with a really tastefully looking customized form as opposed to something that's horrific.
Right. Yeah.
But and if you want to create horrific, you still can. You can break away from it and put in RGB codes and so on. But yeah, it's really nice that it can blend really well. And as you break in away from those theme colors, sometimes that's deliberate. So as you mentioned, you're highlighting something in bright red. So not just having a validation piece of text, but maybe you want it to really stand out to the user that they've not put an appropriate value inside a field or something. So yeah, you can break away from that theme to bring their attention to part of the form that's not right, not completed correctly. So yeah, that's really useful as well. And we also had a list actions as well, which is an add-on to Lightning Forms, or it can also be used independently, but it's a separate product. And list actions actually allows you to do a lot of the same actions that you can do with Lightning Forms against a button, a command bar button, or form load actions with inside the form itself. You can do that actually with inside the list command bar. So this is modern only. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for on-prem customers yet, but inside the list view for a modern library or for a modern list, you can create the action buttons. So yeah, there's of course Power Automate and things like that that you can use, which is really powerful, but sometimes overkill as well. With the list actions, if it might be that you just want to go through and select a whole bunch of these expense reports and mark them all as approved, and store the name of the person who approved them and so on inside some of those fields. And that's the sort of thing that you can do with the list actions. So you're not having to open up each item individually and click a button. You can just do a select all or select a few and then hit approve, and they'll all get applied that way. So really useful. And you can do things like send email actions and things like that. So you could of course notify the claimant that their expense claim has been approved and that type of thing. So
Cool.
yeah, so really handy. So we have a similar story this month with a new addition to, I guess, the Lightning Forms family as it's starting to occur. So we're bundling a bunch of things together, and this is going to be the document generator. And I think people have been crying out for this, and we're not just delivering what people want as a basic piece of functionality. A lot of people have been saying, I want to be able to print a form, or I want to be able to create a PDF from the form. This is actually really powerful. You can upload a template and put in the different fields on that template. So it could be an invoice or something like that. So you can design it using your actual invoice template, but put on the placeholders from the actual form itself. So then you can generate this document directly off the form into whatever format you want. Basically, it's basically going to be a Word format,
right?
of course. But from there, you could print, you could export, and so on. And you're not just getting effectively, a screenshot of your page, which would be the standard window.print method. But it's a really useful tool that we're adding to the mix there.
Yeah. I haven't had a chance to play with that yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Excited to, yeah. So expect to see that this month. So not available just yet, but it will be, and we'll certainly be talking about it on the webinar this month as well. So I think it's 26th.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, thereabouts. So on the 26th, we'll of course be going through the main functionality of Lightning Forms, and we'll be building a good scenario around that. But we'll also be talking about the list actions and the document generator as well. So you'll be able to see that.
And that's available as it's just like another action, right? I mean, it's an additional product, but it comes in that list of actions that you can do.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Invoke it.
Correct. Yeah, you're absolutely right there. And there's a few other features that have been implemented as well in this release. I know you were going to talk about one of them with regards to Camel.
Right. So currently, you can, when you add a list to a form, so what we were discussing before about the sublists is what we're calling them in Lightning Forms, but like the repeating table was in InfoPath, you can specify just to add the list itself. So it's just a control that you can add to the form, which can be any of the lists in your site. And you can add just the list itself, but you can also tick a box that says added as a sub item, and then that allows you to specify a lookup field or have Lightning Forms create a lookup field for you so that that sub list is related to your parent list. So that's always been there. But now new in this release is the ability to add a Camel query filter to that. So therefore, you could display not only the items that are related to this parent list via the lookup column, but also you could pre-filter that in some way. So maybe depending on some other value that the user has filled in on the form, you might want to populate that sublist with just certain values from the list, not all the ones that are related. So I think that's something that people have asked for in the past. So that's going to be great to see that in this new release.
That's awesome. Fantastic. And yeah, one of the other things I also like, or I liked anyway, about Lightning Forms is when you're hiding certain things. So we mentioned again the expense claim. Of course, there's going to be an approve button in there that will mark these actions as being approved, and you could do that with the list actions as well. And there's a visible or a enabled behavior that you can create an expression against. And of course, the enabled one will actually just still render the button, but dimmed, and you can't click it unless you meet the criteria. And with the visible one, it's just invisible, and unless you meet the criteria as well. So my favorite function that was actually one of the expressions with Lightning Forms was is member of group. So you could actually go through and create a SharePoint group called expense approvers or something like that, and put in several people, maybe managers or whoever, and you could then have that button only display or only be enabled for expense approvers. So that was really useful. Now, the new edition is actually similar to that, but it's actually working with Azure AD security groups, which will also mean Microsoft 365 groups as well. So yeah, you're not having to actually go through and create the SharePoint groups. You can have them span multiple things. If you actually had a group called managers or whatever already inside your Azure AD, you could actually use that and display things dynamically based on your membership of that group.
Very nice.
So yeah, that'd be a great feature to see and to roll out. I know a few forms that I've filled or created that I could have done with that a couple of months back. So yeah,
Cool. And then
great.
there's a bunch of different little enhancements, some performance enhancements on some of the scripts and things like that are on the release notes, but we'll be publishing those notes along with the release, so everybody will be able to see exactly what they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we hope to actually be able to demonstrate some of these as well. So you'll be able to see that, of course, in the webinar,
Right.
but we'll also show it inside the Lightning Tools chat.
Yep, for sure.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Well, great. Good to see you in a different state.
Yeah, me too. It's really, really hot here, but yeah, it's nice to have a change.
Fantastic. All right. Well, enjoy the hot, humid weather,
Yeah,
and
I will do.
hope to see you soon.
Yep. All right. See you, Brett.
Take care.
Bye.